Translator, Dark Angel, Kurisu. Though Linghan was only in the Gushing Spring tier, he also possessed the gaze of one who had once stood in the Heaven tier, with but a single look. So long as the other party was beneath the Heaven tier, he could discern their cultivation with absolute clarity. Yet now, he actually could not see through Yan Tianzhao? Had the other party already stepped into the Heaven tier? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Even he, the Alchemy Emperor, had spent 200 years before he finally took that step, and before him none had ever accomplished such a feat. Though it was not that no one could ever repeat his achievement, there would certainly not appear some youth in his mid-teens who had already reached the Heaven tier. Linghan examined him carefully, and could not help but knit his brows faintly. From Yan Tianzhao's body, he could vaguely sense an incomparably evil aura, yet he could not clearly describe what it truly was. But what could be confirmed was that this aura had formed a kind of barrier, one that prevented him from seeing through Yan Tianzhao. Linghan could not help but sigh inwardly. In his last life, he had encountered such monsters as the Sword Emperor and the Phoenix Maiden, but at that time, he was already standing at the world's pinnacle. Thus, meeting so many exceptional geniuses did not feel strange in the slightest. But what of this lifetime? First had appeared Ronghuan Xuan, who had obtained the inheritance of the Thousand Corpse sect. Originally, he would have been able to reach the level of a monster, but after his body was taken over by Asura Demon Emperor, he would definitely become even more terrifying in the future. And now there was Yan Tianzhao, capable of preventing Linghan from seeing through him. This meant the former's monstrous level was definitely not low. He was only in the Gushing Spring tier and was currently in the tiny little Rain Country, yet he had already encountered two people who could possibly become logic-defying in the future. Then, in the 9 nations of the desolate north, the whole northern region, or even in this whole world, just how many such monsters would there be? Were there not far too many geniuses in this lifetime? He had encountered them so easily. So it's little brother Yan. Linghan smiled, then swept his gaze left and right and asked, "Where's Lady Yan?" "My mother felt a little unwell and is currently resting at home. She has not come," Yan Tianzhao replied politely, looking completely like a refined, well-mannered young master, the sort that made anyone who saw him unable to help but feel favorably toward him. Linghan nodded and said, "Is little brother Yan planning to give me your support?" "Haha, I am just here to attend Big Sister Yutong's wedding today and enjoy a cup of wine. I don't know about anything else." Yan Tianzhao laughed, then shifted to another side. His steps were light and measured, his movements fluid and effortless, and his bearing was utterly unlike that of a youth his age. This sight fell into the eyes of some old fellows, and they could not help but be astonished. When had such a young man appeared in the imperial city? Not only was he extraordinarily mature, but even they were unable to see through his cultivation level. This was something extremely strange. "Linghan!" A harsh voice rang out, and they saw a tall man stride over. He said, "What are you doing here?" Liu Bucheng, Liu Yutong's 7th uncle. Linghan weighed the man's attitude as he asked, "It is Yutong's wedding. Should I not come here to offer my congratulations?" Liu Bucheng looked meaningfully at Linghan, and was similarly measuring Linghan's words. He frowned slightly and said, "If you have come to enjoy a cup of wine, then we would naturally welcome you. But if you are here to make a fuss, then the Liu residence is not a place where you can do as you like." Linghan smiled and nodded. From Liu Bucheng's words and tone, he could not read the Liu clan's stance. The other party was simply discussing the matter as it stood. Let's just see, then. About all the guests had arrived, and they all took their seats. The majority of the seating was arranged in advance, but there were some exceptions, such as Linghan. However, they naturally had some emergency seats set aside, so he at least did not have to stand off to one side. "Fu Yuan Sheng, Grandmaster Fu, has arrived," a servant announced, and in an instant all those seated were shaken. That was one of the 2 big bosses of alchemy of Rain Country, someone whose status was only beneath the Rain Emperor. The clan head of the Liu clan personally came out to receive Fu Yuan Sheng. The 2 walked side by side, smiling and laughing, appearing to be conversing with great ease. The Liu clan marrying off one of their daughters had actually managed to invite Fu Yuansheng. What an honor was this! But those seated were well aware that Fu Yuansheng could not possibly have come for the sake of the Liu clan. Instead, he was here because of Ling Han. They had long heard that the two big bosses of alchemy were dearly fond of Ling Han, and now Fu Yuansheng had personally come to attend the wedding today. He was obviously here to give Ling Han full backing. How could this be mere fondness? This was practically pampering Ling Han as though he were his own son. The third elder, Jia Bo Yuan, of Spirit Treasures Pavilion, Master Jia has arrived. Fu Yuansheng had barely taken his seat when another extremely important figure arrived. Jia Bo Yuan's status was not as high as Fu Yuansheng's, but he was still an expert in the spiritual pedestal tier, and within Rain Country, that was the level of an elite. Ordinarily, it would be difficult to even catch a glimpse of such elites, yet they had actually come to attend the wedding today. Lu Yutong and Feng Ming did not possess such face. Then Jia Bo Yuan had either come because of Ling Han or because of Feng Yan. It was unknown whose side he was on. At this moment, Feng Yan finally arrived. With hands clasped behind his back, he leisurely took a seat at the very center. When his eyes swept past Ling Han, a cold smirk appeared at the corners of his lips, and killing intent flooded his gaze. The unspoken meaning was, "I want you to watch your own woman be married to another man. What can you do about it?" Ling Han acted as though he had seen nothing at all. The time had not yet come. There was no need to rush. "The groom and the bride pay their respects to the heavens and earth," the announcer called out loudly, and they saw a figure walk out from either side of the main hall. On the left was a young man wearing nuptial robes. He was quite good-looking, yet carried a sloppy, ruffian-like air. On the right was a young woman in bridal robes. A red veil covered her head, and a maidservant supported her from one side, guiding her forward, step by step. Anyone with eyes could tell that the woman in bridal robes had her cultivation sealed, and was being forcefully dragged over by the maidservant beside her. "Wait!" Ling Han stood up. "Here it is! Here it is! The grand show is about to begin," everyone thought to themselves, their hearts brimming with anticipation. After all, what was so enjoyable about attending a wedding? They were not the groom, and most of the people present had come for the confrontation between Ling Han and Feng Yan. "What do you mean, Ling Han?" One of the Liu clan's clansmen demanded frostily. "I do not agree to this wedding," Ling Han said, shaking his head. "Haha, who do you think you are? Does the Liu clan marrying off one of their daughters still require your approval?" The man sneered icily. He was in his 30s and at the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. Ling Han looked toward Lu Bucheng, but saw that the latter was completely unperturbed, as if he knew nothing of what was happening. Instantly, Ling Han understood. There were actually two voices within the Liu clan. One supported marrying Lu Yutong off to Feng Ming, while the other did not agree. However, the side that disagreed was clearly at a disadvantage. Thus, Lu Yutong had still been brought out to wed, yet under the premise that this would not affect the benefits of the entire Liu clan, that side was still willing to open a back door for Ling Han. Thus, Ling Han had successfully entered the Liu residence. Otherwise, he would definitely have had to fight his way in. Ling Han strode forward and said, "Let me repeat, I do not agree to this wedding. Get lost!" The Liu clan clansman roared, then sprang into motion, throwing a punch straight at Ling Han. The fist came in, and a terrifying shock wave roared around it. As a clansman of the Liu clan, his battle prowess was stronger than any other person at the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier, and had already reached the level of an ordinary person at the 8th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. Ling Han lifted his hand and casually sent out a punch of his own. Trans-Archangel. Editor Kurisu Peng. As Ling Han's fist swept past, there was not the slightest trace of any astonishing fist art, nor any flamboyant technique to be seen. Yet it just happened to seize a hair-thin gap within his opponent's strike. Before all eyes, Ling Han's fist simply and cleanly crashed into the chest of that Liu clansman, and the man was sent flying backward by the force. This punch was heavy and true. That man gave a stifled, muffled humph, and then directly fainted from the blow. A wave of startled cries surged up from every side. One had to understand. That member of the Liu clan was at the 7th layer of the Gushing Spring tier, while Ling Han was only at the 1st layer of that tier. A late-stage Gushing Spring tier opponent ought to have absolute suppression over an early-stage one, so how could he possibly fail to withstand even a single punch from Ling Han? Even the eldest and the 3rd Imperial Prince's expressions changed sharply. Ling Han was actually this formidable, so formidable that he could fell a 7th-layer Gushing Spring tier foe with one strike. Compared to Feng Yan, this was not much weaker at all. Not long ago, Ling Han's cultivation had not been strong enough to even enter their sight. They had lowered themselves to befriend Ling Han solely because they had perceived the value of his background. As for Ling Han's personal strength, it was not even worth a thought. But now, this was utterly beyond belief. Meanwhile, the 7th Imperial Prince wore a smile. The stronger Ling Han proved, the more delighted he became, because he had lent Ling Han a hand in his time of need. And this bond of friendship was absolutely sincere. Some of the Liu clan's clansmen looked pleased, while some looked enraged. Clearly, they were of two minds about this matter, and thus their attitudes split completely. Ling Han continued forward, as if what he had struck down was merely some minor role unworthy of a second mention. Ling Han, you are truly bold, daring to come to the Liu clan and commit an offense. Another middle-aged man leapt out. Among the younger generation, it was already difficult to find one who could halt Ling Han. This man was around 40 years old, and he was at the 9th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. He had been stuck at this realm for many years, yet precisely because of that, he had tempered and solidified his power at this cultivation to a refined, steady depth. Ling Han smiled with calm composure and said, I'm merely ordinarily brave. I'm simply here to see a friend. Since that is the case, then please carry yourself with proper dignity, the Liu clansman said. His name was Liu Zheng, and he was very likely to break through into the spiritual ocean tier. Because of this, he was qualified to come into contact with the Liu clan's core secrets. He knew that within the Liu clan there were two voices, one supporting Ling Han, and the other supporting Feng Yan. Naturally, he stood on Feng Yan's side because Feng Yan had promised many benefits that moved the Liu clan to agree. However, because there were still many in the Liu clan who supported Ling Han, he did not wish to become enemies with Ling Han. Ling Han said, If Yu Tong is willingly marrying, then I will certainly present a precious gift to congratulate her on her marriage. However, if someone is forcing her to go through with it, then as a friend, I will absolutely not agree to this matter. Don't you think you are being too much of a busybody? Liu Zheng gave a cold humped sound. Because you are acting to help a friend, if you step back now, I will spare you for your insolence. Let Yu Tong speak. I want to hear with my own ears what she has to say. Ling Han continued to advance. Insolence. Liu Zheng's anger flared. Not only was he a Liu clan clansman, he was also one who was about to step into the Liu clan's central circle. Who would dare disregard his words? Yet even though he had spoken so politely to Ling Han, the other side still insisted on being a stubborn nuisance. All around, the spectators watched. At this moment, naturally no one would jump out to play the fool. Ling Han strode forward and passed Liu Zheng by, not paying the man the slightest heed. How dare you? Liu Zheng could not endure such humiliation. He abruptly spun around and reached out with a hand to seize Ling Han's shoulder. Pa! Ling Han did not even turn his head. With one hand he caught Liu Zheng's wrist, and with a casual toss, shua, Liu Zheng was flung away. By coincidence, it just so happened that he landed at Feng Yan's feet. So terrifying. Liu Zheng could not even stand against him. How many battle stars did this fellow possess? Yet he was clearly only at the 1st layer of the Gushing Spring tier, so how could he be so terrifying? Within the crowd, Yan Tianzhao smiled, yet a green gleam flashed in the depths of his eyes. It shifted into a strange 6-pointed star, staring fixedly at Ling Han as the smile at the corners of his lips grew broader and broader. Feng Yan lowered his gaze to look at Liu Zheng, who had fallen before him, then lifted his head once more. His face was incomparably calm, and there was not the slightest change of expression to be seen. Ling Han, you have gone too far. An old man who looked to be in his 50s stepped out, his face full of displeasure. Lu Si, spiritual ocean tier. Don't be fooled by the C1 in his name. This man was not merciful in the slightest. He had always carried the reputation of being ruthless. Now, Ling Han was invincible among those at the Gushing Spring tier. No matter how many Gushing Spring tier martial artists faced him, they would only be seeking humiliation. Therefore, this spiritual ocean tier elite of the Liu clan could only shamelessly step out. Even if it was a bit shameful to bully the weak with such a vast gap in strength, it was still better than being unable to restrain Ling Han and allowing him to stir up trouble in pub like this. "Big brother Guang, I'll leave this piece of trash to you," Ling Han said with a smile. Guang Yuan rose, greatly displeased, and said, "This is a spiritual ocean tier martial artist, not a piece of trash. Pei, I am truly unlucky to have actually been duped by you." Though he spoke so, he had already leapt out and appeared before Liu Si. "Guang Yuan?" Liu Qi naturally recognized Guang Yuan. Spiritual ocean tier martial artists were the true elites of Rain Country. For instance, in a vast place like Dayuan City, there was only one spiritual ocean tier cultivator, proof enough of how rare such elites were. What more when Guang Yuan was also among the top 10 loose cultivators? Even a great clan like the Liu clan would not dare underestimate him. Guang Yuan laughed and said, "Brother Liu, you don't move, and I won't move either. How about it?" Liu Xi's expression changed drastically. These words sounded like they were giving him face, yet one had to understand. This was the Liu clan, and today was the day the Liu clan married off one of their daughters. What kind of logic was that? You all came here to cause trouble, and he still was not allowed to act. "Brother Guang Yuan, could you grant me a little face and not interfere?" Another Liu clan elite stepped out, smiling at Guang Yuan. "Liu Chuang!" Guang Yuan's face could not help but tighten. This was the sort who could wear a broad smile while harboring sinister intent, calling you brother, chatting warmly, yet turning hostile and striking the very next moment. Moreover, he was at the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, one layer higher than Guang Yuan's own realm. "Hehe, I'll come and join the excitement too." A thin old man stood up. His head was bald, his eyes were narrow, yet within those eyes shone a chilling light that made one's heart turn cold. "Not even a blade of grass grows, Lu Zhongtian." This time it was Liu Chuang's turn to stiffen. Lu Zhongtian was likewise a loose cultivator, and he was a generation older than Guang Yuan. The nickname "Not Even a Blade of Grass Grows" described his bald head, and it also came to be because he was a ruthless man who never left his enemies alive. There had been no news of this man since 5 years ago, and most people believed he had long since died. Yet the Liu clan knew that Lu Zhongtian had been taken in by the imperial family. Now that he appeared here and was plainly on Ling Han's side, could this be the imperial family's gesture, revealing their attitude? Even the eldest and the 3rd imperial princes were shaken. They naturally knew Lu Zhongtian's identity. This was one of the imperial family's top elites. They each had 2 such men under their own banners, and Lu Zhongtian was the 7th imperial prince's man. Have 7th younger brother and Ling Han joined forces? However, no matter how one looked at it, there was no way for Ling Han to gain the upper hand in today's clash. How could 7th younger brother have made such a blunder? He clearly knew Ling Han was certain to lose, yet still insisted on supporting him? One had to understand. Feng Yan had the Winter Moon sect behind him. What faction within Rain Country could possibly oppose such a colossal behemoth? How strange. 7th younger brother should not be so idiotic as that.